Well, good day, everybody. This is Charmaine Miller again, your running partner on this journey of continual learning and personal growth. I guess some of you are already off that high, that high of a new year, and the reality of life's demands is quickly sinking in. Some of you, yeah. And if by chance you happen to be working in an environment that is emotionally taxing, I am sure that this reality probably came sooner than later. After visiting several schools and speaking with various teachers and administrators, I was reminded that besides the emotional stress that comes with dealing with so many students from varying backgrounds and those who have critical needs, educators also have to contend with colleagues who make coming to work such a chore. I mean, you're dealing with people, and they're no perfect people, right? But what do you do? What do you do when the persons who are the catalysts for so much negativity are actually the people in leadership positions? Oh my. Well, that's why today I want to address the issue of how to handle toxic, manipulative leaders. Yes, they do exist. Even though you would think that school administrators, heads of departments, grade level leaders, and anyone else who holds a leadership position in schools or elsewhere, you would think that they would have been properly vetted to ensure that they have the ability to positively influence people, right? After all, that's really what real leadership is, right? Influence, and positive influence. Well, that's not always the case, unfortunately. Sometimes, like I have witnessed, when you see there are leaders who use manipulative tactics, such as shifting blame, telling half-truths and small lies, creating unwarranted alarms, and even blowing things out of proportion. Those are manipulative tactics. Such leaders only pay attention to what suits them. And most of the time, this means they are good with finding faults and seldom acknowledge what's going well. There are those who, for example, they see you come late one day of the whole term, mind you, and they decide to memo you. Oh my. They hear your students' excited voices all the way down the hall, perhaps during instructional time, and they pull you aside to give you a verbal reprimand. They notice that maybe 8 out of 10 of the students that you took time to enter into a competition, they received recognition. But even though 8 out of 10 did well, they still want to know what happened to the other 2. Oh man, don't you hate those kind of leaders? These are the leaders who make you discouraged. They discourage the educators, and they make those discouraged educators ask themselves, can any good come from my efforts? Nothing is more disheartening to me when I see a group of teachers demotivated, demoralized, and dejected, all because of one manipulative, negative leader. If you are unable to escape this kind of environment, let me offer 3 tips to help you maintain your sanity, survive your difficult supervisor, and maybe even thrive where you are. There's a lot more I can share, so these 3 are just to get you moving. Now, I'm not negating the fact that there are also negative colleagues, co-workers, and so on. And of course, your supervisors have to deal with them, but I want to address you colleagues who have to deal with the manipulative, negative leaders. All right. So here are the 3 things I want to share with you today. I want you to acknowledge, ask, and access. Here's what I mean by that. The first thing is acknowledge. Acknowledge that your supervisor may have some underlying unresolved issues. I like to say that some folks have some issues deep in their tissues, huh? They may have brought some emotional baggage to the job, which they are wrongfully unpackaging on others. Now, I don't know if you've ever noticed, but hurting people, they tend to do what? Hurt other people. Yeah, that's what they do. Now, this doesn't make their actions right, but knowing this gives you a better perspective. And sometimes that's what we need. We just need to change our perspective so you don't take your supervisor's negative words or the negative actions to heart. See, some issues might not even be that deep, It may not be emotional baggage. For example, you might have a leader who constantly shouts when he speaks, just because that's the only time he is able to control his stammering. I meant to do that. And he may feel that stammering makes him out to be weak, inadequate, and insecure. So once you acknowledge this fact, see, that's what he would have done to kind of get over. He shouts. Now, you might think, well, this person has some pent up anger. Well, you see, there are a lot of issues they have. So acknowledge this fact. You may see when you do that, that you may not necessarily be the problem. And then you can better navigate the rough terrain that you're in. So acknowledge. The second thing I want you to do is ask questions. Now, if your manipulating leader is making an unfair request of you, turn the table around and ask them. Now, sir, ma'am, does this seem to be fair to you? Get them thinking, is this a reasonable request you're making? And even ask, do I have a say in the matter? Sometimes they make it seem as if you have to, when in fact you perhaps do have a choice. Any leaders with any ounce of self-awareness will begin to realize that they are being unreasonable and inappropriate. So asking them such pointed but respectful questions helps them to see from your perspective and to evaluate the situation better. Now, don't forget the respectful part. Sometimes people ask questions in such a hostile manner that they basically even evoke more hostility. So, of course, ask questions. The third and final thing I want to share with you is to access your rights. You must be reminded that there are some basic human rights that you are entitled to. Not only do you have the right to be treated with respect as a teacher, and I'm hoping that you all treat your students and your colleagues with respect as well, but you also have the right to protect yourself from being harmed. And this could be physical harm, mental, or even emotional harm. You have that right. You don't have to put yourself or remain in such situations. You are not a doormat, my friend, my colleague. So you don't need to let anyone make you feel inferior or inadequate because of their own inadequacies. Hear me well when I say that I am not advocating that you use these rights to be rude, to be raunchy or insubordinate. But when you arm yourself with the knowledge of your entitled rights, you can work more with confidence and with no fear. And you can't really work with fear. So stand tall and access your rights. Now, on a practical note, if you are listening to this and your concern is just with your immediate supervisor, then access your right to speak to the one above them. Sometimes that's all it takes, putting it in context. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. Acknowledge that your leader might be dealing with issues, ask questions to turn things around, and then access your rights and exercise them. It is my hope that this video has challenged you to adopt some habits that you can use to help you navigate through the terrain of dealing with a manipulative, negative, perhaps even a vindictive leader. If I did help you, feel free to share this video with a friend and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Proactive Skill Developers, to catch all of our upcoming videos. And take a few seconds and type a note. Let us know what you think about what's going on here. In the meantime, let's choose to keep learning and growing, because what we learn, becomes a part of who we are. And like Einstein said, once we stop learning, we start dying. So, never stop learning, because life, as you know, it never stops teaching. Until next time, to your success.